look, frankly, at different information. You know, this is very private stuff, a doctor's office, private medical files, computer files, medical records. And it's almost uniform across the country in virtually any state. If you want to go deeper into somebody's private files, sometimes you have to get new search warrants, new justification, and you do that by taking a first layer look, seeing what's there, and going back in. So there's no question they found something that gave them cause to go back in again. That's not good news for this doctor.
Wendy, I know these are very different cases, but do you see any similarities or commonalities with the Anna Nicole Smith case in terms of drugs being found in the death scene and a doctor who's also kind of a friend? And you take it away.
Yeah. And, you know, celebrity people having apparently strange access to doctors willing to do strange things. Yeah. And frankly, you took the words right out of my mouth. What I want to know is, why didn't anybody knock down with a battering ram Anna Nicole's rogue doctor who was doling out large vats of stuff that ultimately took her life? You know, the important thing to remember here, Jane, and you know this, is that it's so easy to get drugs off the internet from foreign countries. You know, we used to have a society where you had to go to a doctor and get a prescription. It was highly regulated and hard to really kill yourself, or for that matter, take enough drugs to want to kill other people. It was hard to do that before the internet. These days, it's so easy that you would think in any case where somebody dies apparently connected to abuse of drugs, the first thing law enforcement would do is knock down the door of the doctor, as they did here, and good for them. What I want to know is, why didn't that happen in Anna Nicole's case?
And I want to go back to Bret Hart, former WWE wrestler and a good friend of Chris Benoit's. And as we speak, we may very well roll and scroll down on a list of many, many professional wrestlers who have died prematurely in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. If it turns out, and it's a big if, the toxicology reports are not back, but if it turns out that Chris Benoit had steroids in his system, what should be the fallout for the WWE? What needs to be done? Because people are saying this is a crisis.
You know, I don't know. I'm confident at this point that you're going to find that the WWE is going to back up what they've said. But if that wasn't the case, I'd be really surprised and be.
What do you mean back up? I'm just not clear on what you're saying.
Well, I think they've had a really strong drug testing policy in place since Eddie Guerrero died about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And it's been a really strict test, as far as I know. I've talked to wrestlers that have had to, you know, refrain from steroids, and the steroids are not popular anymore in the WWE. It's my understanding they've kind of blocked them out.
Let me ask you this, because it may be a strict test, but are the punishments strict? And I think that's the key. I was told that it was first test that's positive, suspension without pay for 30 days. Second positive test, suspension without pay for 60 days and possible rehab. And then the third strike, you are out. But is that punitive that would stop somebody who's desperate to break in or desperate to stay on top?
I think so. I mean, in the wrestling world, it's not that easy for a wrestler to go without being paid. It's really important to, like everybody's job, to have that steady income coming in. They all got mortgage payments and bills like everyone else. And being in rehab is expensive. I think that a lot of these costs sometimes are taken right out of your check later on. So it's like, it's really, in the end, you have to comply with whatever the rules are. And I know the WWE back in the early 90s had very strict drug testing that, as far as I know, I followed, and all the wrestlers that I was around followed, and it was really strict, and I think it was a successful testing process.
Well, there's obviously a problem somewhere. There's a crisis somewhere when you're scrolling down that many names of people who have died prematurely. I remember I did a story on professional wrestling, a 3-part series, and I never got anybody to admit during the course of several days that professional wrestling is even staged. So it's hard to say that everybody's going to be forthright about an issue that's so much more controversial than that, an issue of steroids. What do you say to that?
Well, I think, you know, in this case, I think you know, I don't think you need steroids in wrestling, and that's what they've been saying, so I'm kind of hoping that that's all backed up and turns out to be the case. I think, from my understanding, that everyone in the wrestling world, probably including Vince McMahon, and everyone wants to know what happened here and how it all went wrong. And I think we're as anxious to learn what happened and whether it was medications leading into this. Maybe it was building up for months. I'm hearing mixed rumors from people I know that that Chris was fine right up until the day that this happened, and then I'm starting to hear other stories that he was, you know, quite emotional the last few months, and then maybe something was really troubling him. So I'm not quite sure, but I hope you know, the authorities are on top of this and that they dig hard and get right to the bottom of it. It would probably serve everybody well to know exactly what really happened, or at least as close to the truth as we possibly can.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you there. The phone line's lighting up. Christina from Alabama, your question.
Yes, ma'am. Hello?
Yeah, hi, go ahead.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I was wanting to know if there's going to be charges filed against his doctor, and if so, what charges would be filed? Manslaughter or anything?
Well, excellent question, Paul Batista, defense attorney and author of Death's Witness. Could they file charges against him of a criminal nature, or would it be more likely that a medical board would get on his case?
Well, it's more likely that a medical board would be on his case. But, you know, at this point, Jane, let's not, I hate to use this expression, rush to judgment. This is a doctor. As far as we know, he's had no criminal experience in the past, and there's no reason to assume that he was illegally prescribing anything to Chris Benoit, or that he was running a pill factory for distribution through the United States.
There were steroids in his home, and he visited that doctor the day before all this started, the actual afternoon that it began.
Jane, there's nothing criminal about a doctor having steroids or any other prescription medication available to him or her in his office or at her home. There's nothing inherently illegal about that.
Well,
Any viewer will understand that you sometimes get legitimate drugs from your doctor.
Yeah, but sometimes they're used for illegitimate purposes, and when we come back, we're going to try to sort that out and find out when it's legal to take steroids or sell them and when it's not. To tonight's Case Alert, a $10,000 reward in the search for who killed